Hey guys, Spud here, and today we have another look at a one-on-one training session with one of my patrons. This student has been flying the F-16C for a number of years off and on, and wanted to get serious about DCS World multiplayer and join the large Sunday missions I host and eventually the highly realistic red flag events. So today's lesson was really about tying together all those loose ends of his F-16 knowledge, drop some JDAMs for the first time, and generally see where he was and what he needed to work on to join those complex events. I think he did really well, and even better once we got him to simplify his approach to flying the aircraft and using its avionics. For instance, only correcting one flight axis at a time when flying formation. I think he's right on the cusp of being able to really enjoy flying in those large, complex multiplayer missions and events. So guys, keep in mind, I do lessons as a perk for all of my patrons who support the channel with $15 or more. Thanks guys, I hope you enjoy the video.
So as an example, I do a lot of VATSIM as well. So
okay, gotcha.
With the ATC on that, you would only be talking about like your aircraft when you're moving. With like, for instance, in that example, you said a flight of two F-16s. Would it only be the flight lead that performs the ATC at that point?
Yeah, exactly. So,
okay, cool.
A formation of fighter jets or a formation of any aircraft doesn't have to be fighter jets. The controllers will control that flight as a single aircraft that is led by the leader. And then, you know, the controller knows that the wingmen are going to follow around that leader. Now, there could be instances where a controller, say they have a flight of 6 F-16s, or 4 F-16s, or 10 F-16s, whatever it is, they might want to break that big old flight apart into smaller chunks to make it easier to control them into, say, an airfield. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool, so I'm going to go ahead and start my taxi here, and I will pick you up, and you'll just taxi on out after me.
Cool.
Typically, you'll hear somebody make a radio call of, like, one's rolling as I start to roll, and then as you start to roll, you'll say something to the effect of two's rolling.
What sort of speed do you normally taxi at?
In the F-16, I try to taxi pretty darn slow, because of the fact that it's got very spindly landing gear. So I will go probably no faster than about 15 knots of ground speed on a straightaway, and about maybe 8 knots at the fastest on a turn.
Do you use your fuel flow at all to like gauge how much speed you're going to end up getting, if that makes sense?
No, so let me show you something really cool that you may not know about in the F-16. Is if you go on your ICP to the list button, then you go to number 6 for the INS, you can actually see a readout on the bottom right of your DED of your ground speed.
You look at my screen.
Yep, you got it.
It's already on there.
Perfect.
I'm a bit fast behind you. I apologize.
Okay. So, yeah, just be real careful. I would say, you know, when you're in a big mission with, say, 50 other pilots and there's a lot of jets taxiing around the airfields, it's realistic to give everybody kind of a nice wide berth, but it's also important in DCS because of that rubber banding. You want to make sure that you're not going to get hit by a rubber band or something of that nature.
I have been hit by plenty of rubber banding, mainly from Apaches at the moment in multiplayer servers.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. They spin around and then they become infinitely big. It's hilarious.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, and then they just launch into one player.
That's a bug that I have not heard of.
Yeah, I'll try and get it on my medal and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Because it's so funny when it happens. It's happened to me once, and then I've seen it happen to other players.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. It only seems to be on these French servers that I go on as well. It's quite funny. I'm always questioning after I've done my own startup procedure. Have I missed anything?
Yeah, well, that's important. Biggest thing to check is your caution and advisories panel just forward of your stick on the right-hand side. And if that is all out, then you're pretty darn good. And if you've gotten the INS aligned and you've gotten all of your power for your power switches for your avionics, then you're pretty much good to go.
And I'm going to put my control surfaces up for you to watch as well.
Okay.
On my screen. Can you see them?
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, cool. Beautiful day today.
Yeah, it is. Beautiful
We
day
had
for
3 days
flying.
we had 3 days of sunshine where I am, and then it's been tipping down with rain all day today.
Oh no.
Yeah. My cat might want to come and say hi at some point, by the way. Just a warning. So
No
if you
problem.
see my face tracking go all weird, it's because she's walked in front of it. Especially if we're mid activity or something.
Yeah. My dog, she likes to come and throw my hand off my stick.
Oh, lovely. She likes to come and lay on my elbow, like on me, but on my elbow that I use for my stick arm. And boy, just pulling back and then having to like try and get my arm back up to stop pulling up.
Yeah.
She's quite awake. She's watching me at the moment, actually.
Alright, we're coming right here on Alpha.
And it would be nice if the online multiplayer service could provide us with some decent charts. So I know how to read charts.
Yeah, that would be nice. I usually inject all of my missions with taxiway diagrams and things of that nature. But
So helpful.
Yeah, it is definitely very helpful. Have you done a formation takeoff yet?
No.
Okay.
No. Like I said, I normally play solo. It's only when I get in the air that people start to talk to me. So.
Okay, gotcha. Alright, well, we'll stop at the hold short line here, and we'll go over our takeoff procedure. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll take off and we'll start flying out towards steer point 1, and we'll climb up to 15,000, and we'll maintain 350 knots, or as close to that as possible, as we fly on out there. Like I said, not looking for Thunderbird or Red Arrow excellence with formation flying, but as long as you can kind of stay near me, that would be good.
Cool.
And so what we'll do here is for a formation takeoff, it's essentially, a great way to, maximize and make the runway as efficient as possible, to get as many jets in the air as quickly as possible. So what I'm going to do, instead of lining up on the center of the runway, I'm going to line up on the middle of the left half of the runway, and you'll line up in the middle of the right half of the runway. I'm going to call hold brakes, and you're going to hold your brakes all the way in. Then I'm going to say run them up, so you're going to run your engine up to about 80% power. Then I'm going to say release brakes, and we'll release brakes together. We'll start rolling down the runway, and then as we're rolling, I'm going to say burner, and we're going to push the throttle over the gate into burner, and that way we'll be going down the runway right together, and I'll call a rotation as well for us, so that way we can start rotating off the runway nice and seamlessly. Sound good?
Cool.
Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take the runway. Okay, finals clear, runways clear. Just want to use as much runway as we possibly can. So you can see the touchdown zone markers on the center of the left and right side of the runway. So that's kind of what I line up on, is kind of try to be in the middle of those touchdown markers. So you were saying that you have some difficulty with having it being a little bit squirrely on the runway?
Yeah, but I think I've just figured out why.
Okay, what's that?
I normally punch it.
Gotcha.
And you just said that you go to 80% and then you let the brakes go and then you go up to mil power basically, and then you burn a half, like partially down the runway. I go full burner straight away.
Yeah,
So that might be the issue.
That's probably not the issue, because we're gonna actually be going into burner pretty quick. We're not gonna be rolling down the runway very long, because runway behind us is not gonna help us in case we have an issue. So what's probably the issue is you're probably keeping your nose wheel steering on as you're going down the runway. So you want to turn that nose wheel steering off, and in the F-16, use your differential braking on your wheels for crosswind correction on the takeoff roll. And that will be a lot less squirrely for you, because the F-16's nose wheel steering can be quite sensitive.
So you mean like just apply small braking on the wheels?
Yep, okay. Exactly. Small differential braking. Yep.
That's good to know.
Okay. So, looks like you're set. And so basically when you taxi onto the runway, your leader will say 1 set, and then when you're set and ready for the takeoff, you'll say 2 set. So go for it.
2 set.
Alright. And run them up. So we're going for 80% power. Alright. Release brakes now. And burners. Jumped out in front of me a little bit, that's okay. And rotate. Nice gentle rotation.
It'll come up. Come on.
It's a bit heavy. Gears coming up. Out of burners.
Coming. Steer point 1, yeah.
Yep, coming right towards steer point 1. But at this point, remember that if you're flying as a wingman, you're a -2. Don't worry about navigation. Your job is just to stay in formation with the leader. The leader is doing all the navigation and all of the talking to ATC and following clearances. Your job is just to stay with them. Make sense?
Yep.
Cool. So, ideally, for the best possible place to be in formation for a -2 is going to be if you try to line up my wingtip with my canopy. So, try to think of like my wingtip being the rear sight and my canopy being the front sight of like a rifle, looking down a rifle. Try to line those two up, and that'll be your perfect spot. Just give it a little bit of extra power here. Try to join back up with me. I'm climbing about 7.5 degrees nose up.
Like basically between the 5 and the 10, isn't it?
Exactly.
I know I can be very aggressive with my speed, so I may be catching up slowly, but I'm doing it for some throttle discipline.
Roger. Okay, we're passing steer point 1, coming right to steer point 2.
Yeah, I'm just trying to slow down.
And it looks like you missed a... Oh, there you are. Looks like you missed a small part of the cold start procedure. Is your data link isn't turned on. Oh, so we'll fix that in just a sec here. I should have caught that while we were on the ground. That's okay.
I should have noticed that as well. I can't see you on my HSD.
Yep. Okay, I'll be leveling at 15,000 here. Leveling.
I'm now on your left, by the way.
Yep, roger that. Alright, I'm just going to start speeding up to about 350 again.
But the weight turbulence then.
Yeah, watch out for that.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the keys for formation flying is going to be if you feel yourself drifting away from your formation, who you're trying to fly formation off of, or you feel yourself drifting closer to them, fix one axis at a time, right? So if you're getting too close or getting too far away, just use roll on the jet to roll the jet to one side or the other that you need to fix that axis, which is your roll axis of the issue with the formation flying. If you find yourself coming up and down, fix that y-axis, that pitch axis, and fix the pitch axis only. If you find yourself going down and sliding off to the left, then fix one axis at a time. Don't try to fix both at the same time. Because if you try to fix both at the same time, it can get a bit more squirrely than it can be useful for newer folks who aren't so used to flying in formation.
Yeah, that just completely changed the way I did that. Well, as you were telling me that, I was actually doing it. That was amazing. That was like a complete change, like doing one axis at a time. That should be in some theory book somewhere, surely.
Yeah, it is, actually.
Yeah.
Especially in a fly-by-wire jet like this, it makes a big difference. And check your speed brakes. Look like your speed brakes are out.
Yeah, I'm just bringing myself down to 350.
Got it.
There we go.
That's looking really good. I would say come forward a little bit further. Try to line up my wingtip with my canopy if you can. That'll make it easier for me to keep track of you.
Did you want me to come up a little bit, or is it just a little bit more forward?
Yeah, just forward a little bit. And now start to pull that throttle back just a hair. And right there is perfect. So if you can kind of hold that sight picture on my aircraft right there, then you'll be golden. I like it. Looks like you're fixing one axis at a time now. That's fantastic. Looks like
I can actually see you in my field of view now, so that's...
Yep. So one thing that is definitely something that I just saw you do there, and is pretty darn common for folks who are new to formation flying, is the closer you get to the object you're trying to fly formation off of, whether that's me or a tanker or something of that nature, the closer you get, the more like jumpy you get. And so that smoothness that you had when you were a few feet further away from me kind of went away, right? So, so try to really keep that smoothness as you get closer to me. But of course, be a little bit more aggressive with it if you find yourself needing to, jump out of the way in case, I start flying into you or something like that.
Yeah, it's this right drift. It's the right drift that I'm having to correct for at the moment, which is really annoying because I don't want to fly into you and ruin the mission. So
right. So one thing with that right drift is you have your trim hat mapped, correct?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, good. So with that trim hat, in a real airplane, we would basically feel the control pressure of the airplane. In the F-16, we actually wouldn't, so it's actually more like DCS, but I'm just speaking in generalities. In a real airplane, we would feel control pressures, and then we would move the trim to relieve those control pressures, so that way we're no longer muscling the stick or the yoke around.
Oh, is that why you get force feedback joysticks?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense now.
In a fly-by-wire jet like the F-16 or the F-18, even in real life, you don't really have as much. Well, the F-18 you'd have some feedback. The F-16 you don't really have that feedback. So what you're looking for is take your hand off the stick and then let the jet kind of do that right rolling motion and just give little tiny quick taps on left wing down on your trim hat until that rolling motion stops. And at that point, you know you're pretty much good to go. You've got it trimmed out.
I'm just going to hit my altitude hold in a minute. So this is completely hands off.
No problem.
And this is my bank. This is what happens. So if I now tap the right stick, left stick, it's just gone up. I felt it and I saw it move.
Yeah, keep in mind though that when you're trying to trim the jet with the autopilot on, it can be a little wonky.
Yeah. I just didn't want to put any up and down pressure on it just to make sure that that pitch wasn't being affected, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool, so I'm at 350, I'm just catching back up now.
Yep, Roger, I'm at like 347. So in a jet like the F-16, because there's no auto throttle like in the FA-18, you'll have, your leader will say like 350 knots, and then they'll kind of like wobble around between like 345 and 355. And so your job flying formation is basically just to, rather than going off like pure numbers, also look at them and adjust your speed to maintain position on them. Really, as you're flying the formation, you get better and better and better. You really don't even have to know what speed your leader is going anyway. You're just doing it all visually. It's trying to maintain station on your leader.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just feel like I'm being overwhelmed at times, like so many things that I've got to remember to do at the same time, and it's just...
Yep.
It can be overwhelming at times.
It definitely is, and that's totally normal. We actually call that a helmet fire.
Okay.
So when you're getting overwhelmed, it's called having a helmet fire. But basically, and that's another reason why we try to stay ahead of the jet. So if we are doing as much as we can back in the parking stand, well then that's going to reduce our chances of having a helmet fire later, because when we're fencing in and we're looking for MiGs and starting to get ready for combat, well, I don't have to also be like, oh shit, I forgot my RWR, things like that.
Yeah.
So the further we stay ahead of the jet, the further we think ahead, the further we plan ahead, the less chance we're going to get overwhelmed. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Should we sort this data link out while we're here?
Yeah, do you have your MIDS LVT switch turned on back by your avionics power panel?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure.
Sorry. Yeah,
okay. There you go. Now it's on.
Yeah, sorry. Apologies. Right,
Yep,
I'm now on your
go.
right-hand side because I took my eyes off the stick a minute.
Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and fence in.
I'm just going to hit my auto button. And you're going to want highway control?
Yep. And we want to have power on to our GBU-38s.
Cool.
Nice. And what we'll do is we'll just keep on flying out this direction here, let you get a little bit more formation flying in, and we will then come back around and reattack some aircraft on the ramp at Damascus International Airport.
Cool. So you're just starting your day there, are you? My day's almost over here.
Yep, exactly. Just starting up here.
So the GBU-38s, that's the laser guided?
Negative. So that's going to be your GPS guided bombs.
Okay.
On those are GBU-38s are always going to be GPS guided, and they're fire and forget. So as soon as you target them on a piece of ground, you can fly away. You don't have to worry about lasing for them or anything like that. And you can, as long as you're in the launch zone, you can select and target as many targets as you want and drop as many bombs as you want as you fly through that target area, and that way you could literally drop, 8 JDAMs on one pass and then fly away back home and not have to worry about them again. The downside to a JDAM is you can't hit a moving target because it's targeted on coordinates on the ground, right? Whereas a laser-guided bomb can hit a moving target because we're actively moving the laser with that target. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, because when you're lasing something, the laser's moving with that target, isn't it? So,
yeah. So we're heading out towards steer point 3 now. So while laser-guided bombs, deficiency is that you have to lase it, you can hit a moving target. So like a truck that's moving or a tank that's moving, things like that. From my perspective, it seems like your internet connection is doing great because I haven't seen you do any rubber banding or anything like that.
I would hope so. But my actual job is in cybersecurity, so I need a fairly decent internet connection to be able to do my job, basically.
Absolutely.
And it's fantastic for gaming.
Yeah, definitely. Good side effect, right?
Yeah, exactly. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Exactly.
So you know that enable switch?
Yes.
That we use to align my HMC, whatever it is. Is that used for anything else?
So it is a leftover from older versions of the F-16. Same thing with that power, the map power switch on the avionics power panel, how it doesn't do anything. In the older F-16s, like the F-16A, the enable switch was the same as hitting TDC depress in the other aircraft, or that would actually be how you locked up a bandit on your radar or something under the targeting pod or something of that nature. But in the F-16C, that was changed over to have the more fleshed out OTAS system and actually brought in the target management switch, which kind of took over and expanded upon the idea of hitting the enable switch. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
It's interesting, and then on top of that, I don't think this has anything to do with the enable switch itself, but on top of that, the Air Force the US Air Force had so many different variants of F-16s. In the mid-2000s, they went through and did a program to kind of make the F-16s in the inventory as common across each other as possible, and that's where you get things like the map switch no longer working and things like that. And so that is why our jet is actually technically an F-16C M Block 50, whereas a lot of other countries have F-16 Block 50s. The Air Force calls them CM because they're modernized and equalized across the different variants.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Alright, so what we'll do is when we hit this next waypoint, we're going to make kind of a sweeping right-hand turn back towards our target area, and we'll start to get our pod onto that target area and start to lock up some aircraft on the ramp, so that way we can drop our JDAMs on them.
Cool. And is that back around to steer point 2?
That's going to be back around to steer point 5 for us. For our GBU-38s, do you have your stores page up? Oh, I guess I could look at your screen. Go ahead and bring up your SMS page. And cool, yeah, you have it in pre-plan mode. Basically, I only use pre-plan mode for JDAMs. There's really no reason to use any other mode. It's the best possible way to use them. So just making sure you were on that. And essentially, once we kind of get heading over towards steer point 5, just get your targeting pod onto the airfield there, put the cursor or the crosshair of the targeting pod onto a target, TMS forward, that'll load those coordinates of that target into the bomb. Then when you're in zone, you can hit the pickle button and the bomb will hit the target. And it's that easy.
Very nice. Why have I been overcomplicating it?
All right.
I think I've been getting laser guided and these JDAMs mixed up, to be fair.
Gotcha. All right, we're coming right towards waypoint 5. Let's climb up to 18,000 feet, and we'll speed up to a more tactical airspeed of 400 indicated. Cool, see the fires on your targeting pod already?
Yes.
Those are on the airfield there, so it should make finding targets pretty darn easy. Nice job, I can see you back there. Starting to get a little bit of a trail formation, that's fine. One thing to think about when flying in formation is if you are on the outside of a turn, you actually need to be going faster than your leader. And if you're on the inside of the turn, you got to be going slower. And that's why you're sliding back into a trail right now.
Wow. Your weight just completely hit me.
Yeah. So remember that wake for other aircraft will come down slightly over time. So if you are behind me and slightly below me, you're more likely to get hit by it. All right, there's 18,000. There are a number of IL-76s on the right-hand side of the largest fire at the right-hand side of the airfield down there.
Those planes?
Yep. So yeah, so there they are. And yeah, so now on your HUD, you essentially have like a range staple, which is very similar to you firing an AMRAAM, right? So yeah. All you need to do now is once the little carrot gets inside that staple, you're good to go to drop the bomb. And that is a dynamic launch zone, so the higher you are and the faster you are, the further the bomb can go. And so if you're higher and faster, you can drop it from further away. One cautionary thing is I don't like to drop the bomb the moment it gets to the very top of the staple, because if there's a crosswind or a headwind that the bomb has to fight, it may not make it all the way to the target. So I give it a little bit of a cushion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, to check your lights, your external lights are still on. If I just bring that master switch all the way to off.
What's that?
So the master switch is that one, so it says master lights. Bringing that all the way to off will douse all your lights.
Yeah. You said 400 indicated?
Yes, sir. And I'll pause it here just so we can talk before we get into the launch zone.
Cool.
Is when it comes to targeting JDAMs and LGBs onto, say taller structures like an airplane here, like a big old transport airplane or a building, things of that nature, the pod and the weapons are not smart enough to know what you're targeting. It doesn't know, hey, I want to hit the third story of the building, or I want to hit the, this airplane right on the top of it. The pod and the weapons, especially JDAMs, only know the geographical coordinate that you're targeting and the elevation of the terrain at that point. So in order to make sure that you actually hit this target square on, you want to make sure you're targeting right at the base of it, which looks like you're already doing, which is perfect. So you don't want to, like, say, target the top of the tail, because then the bomb is going to fall long, because it's going after the ground beyond the tail. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect, okay. All right, I'll go ahead.
Does it matter that I'm in wide still, or should I be in narrow for like a better sort of pinpoint, if that makes sense?
Totally up to you. Whatever works best for you. There's nothing in the manual that says when to do what when it comes to the targeting pod.
Cool.
All right, in 3, 2, 1, here we go. Okay, I'm starting to get in zone here.
I'm starting to.
And pave way.
Paveway.
And paveway times 2. Okay, I just dropped both my JDAMs on 2 different targets. And so now you're going to have a pretty asymmetrical load on the aircraft.
I did too.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
let's take a look.
Nope. Yep, they're both gone.
Yep, perfect. Good job. So see how easy that was? You just fly over the target, drop the bombs, and now, if we needed to, say we were having MiGs coming after us, or we had, some, AAA coming after us, or SAMs, we can just run away. We don't have to worry about lasing the bomb. Okay.
But does it matter where it hits on things?
Nope. So an airplane is a super soft target. So even if you have a near miss, that airplane's never going to be flying again. That's for sure. Yeah, airplanes are about the softest targets around besides personnel.
Wow.
Because they're fragile.
Yeah.
There's one shack. Oh, and I got masked. That's okay. Beautiful. And 1 hit. 2 hits. Nice job, dude.
Nice. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll swap over to the...
What indicated airspeed, sorry?
Right now I'm a bit fast. I'm 430 right now.
Okay.
Pulling it back for you.
I'm 417. I'm off to your left.
Beautiful. I got you. Okay. So when it comes to using the GPU-12s, when you select them, it puts you into CCIP mode by default, and we want to swap that over to CCRP mode.
Cool, done.
Beautiful. Cool, so once we've got that, make sure your laser's armed, which you've already got it, so that's perfect. And by default, the aircraft will slave the laser to your gun trigger. So if you squeeze the trigger, as if you were firing the guns, it would fire your laser. So that can be good for things like buddy lasing, or if, say, you're going after a moving target, where you want to have the bomb start to track the laser a little bit earlier than usual. Otherwise, if you just drop the bomb, the laser will automatically start firing at a preset interval before the weapon impacts the target. The reason for that is it'll allow the bomb to fall ballistically for a time to gain as much energy as possible to use that energy for the guidance method down to the target itself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The reason why we want to allow a laser-guided bomb like a Paveway 1 or 2 to have that delay before lasing the target is because it uses a method of guidance called bang-bang guidance method, which is extremely inefficient because it deflects the control surfaces completely fully to one side or the other, which can essentially make the bomb stall out and then fall to the ground and not hit its target before it can get to that target that you're lasing. So one thing you can do to influence the interval before the bomb actually, before the pod actually starts lasing automatically, is if you go to list, you go to MISC, and then you go to 5 for laser, the laser ST time down below shows you how long before impact the laser will start firing automatically.
But will the laser start firing automatically, or do you need to depress the trigger?
It will start firing automatically. By default, it'll start firing 8 seconds before the bomb impacts the target.
Okay.
Now, I typically shift this over to 15 seconds, but that is up to you. 8 seconds will work fine in DCS.
Okay. So it would just be a case of doubling down, for instance, and changing that to 15?
Yep, so pop in, 1.5 and then hit enter.
Yep.
And now you're good to go. So at this point, what we'll do is we'll check it right 90 degrees to unmask our pods. We'll select a new target with our targeting pod, and then we'll fly on in and hit the target.
Cool. Sorry, I'm not keeping a decent formation though.
No, it's totally fine. That's totally fine. When you're attacking targets, you're not really expected to fly in formation. In fact, what we're doing right now, have you in a trail formation, is probably the best thing we could do.
Sure.
Now, we forgot to change our weapon laser codes while we were on the ground, so we're both on 1688. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break off here, and I'm just going to fly in formation with you, and watch you drop your bomb.
You're going to watch me drop my bomb, yeah?
Yep.
Cool. So is the code still 1688?
Yes.
Yeah.
One way you can check that is if you hit Right-Shift-K on your keyboard, it'll open up your kneeboard, and it'll bring you to the laser code page.
Cool.
So let me know when you've got a target selected, and then go for it. Looks like your ejection seat's unarmed.
Yep, I just noticed that.
Yep.
Out of the corner of my eye then. that would not have been useful.
If you get lost in the targeting pod, remember you can always cursor 0 back to the pod, or back to the waypoint.
Yeah. Is it looking at the right waypoint?
What waypoint do you currently have selected?
5?
Okay. Yeah, you're looking at the wrong airfield. You're looking, see on your HUD, you can see that little box. So go ahead and hit, there you go.
Yeah, got it.
And so at the base of that big fire, there's some aircraft. There you go. Nice.
Cool. Sorry,
and now just transition to flying off of the HUD and fly directly on that fall line.
And then I've got to wait for the little dobber thing to come down, don't I?
Yep, exactly. So it's first going to go into DTOS mode, or dive toss, and then it'll swap over to a level bombing weapon release queue.
Okay, so is the dive toss thing the circle that comes up?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, because when I first did that the other day, that confused the hell out of me.
Yeah, so I'll show you.
This?
I'll tell you when to press and hold your pickle button.
Cool. So I've got the targeting indicator now on the right hand side.
Yep. Come left just slightly. Try to be right on that fall line if you can. Nice and gentle.
That's all right then.
Alright. Should be getting close.
Yeah, that carrot's coming down now quite rapidly.
Yep. Good. Good job staying right on that fall line. Okay, so this is the DTOS mode. Don't worry about that. Now, press and hold that pickle button. And pave way. And now, the laser will automatically fire when you get to 15 seconds before impact. Weapons fallen. And it's tracking.
Brilliant. I'm just going to bank right so that I can keep track on that targeting pod.
Yep, exactly. Good job. Just make sure you don't mask the pod while the weapon is falling. And impact. Nice job.
Nice. Annoyingly, that was masked by the cloud for me.
Yeah, if in DCS clouds don't block lasers, but in real life your bomb would have gone stupid because your laser would have been blocked by the cloud. So, laser-guided bombs are a VFR-only weapon, and that's another reason why JDAMs are great, is because the JDAM doesn't care if there's clouds, it's just trying to hit coordinates. So you can drop it at any weather and any visibility. So when you're ready, just kind of fly on around the target, select a new one, and head on in and hit it with your second bomb.
I believe there was a big plane to the left of those small planes, wasn't there?
Yeah, there were some big ones. Is this making things seem a little easier for you, adding a little clarity?
Yes. Yeah, having someone talk me through it while I'm in the air is so much more relaxing.
That's good.
I don't feel like I'm in a rush.
Yeah.
I've got nothing shooting at me at the moment, which is quite nice.
Yeah, exactly. We don't train in a combat scenario.
No. So that was you just pinging my RWR then, was it?
Nope. So right now, it looks like there is a aircraft carrier that just popped up out there. Or some sort of like an Aegis class cruiser or something of that nature.
I should be coming around to get...
Have you selected a new target yet?
No, because I don't see anything on the...
Yeah, it's masked at the moment. Oh, there we go. Now you're unmasked.
Sorry, that was me pressing the wrong button.
That's all good. And remember, if you get lost, see how your pod... Yeah, oh, cool. Good, you already know about that. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So, the reason why it's being so jumpy right now is your pod is not your sensor of interest. So go display minute. Yeah, there you go. Now it's going to be a bit smoother for you. Perfect.
Just done it again.
So I really like the way that you don't have your head glued to the instrument panel. So I like that you're looking around, using that HMD, looking around, seeing where you are in the environment. That's fantastic.
Yes, I started playing this in 2019 after watching some of your videos in VR, and I got hooked to it. And now I'm playing with a Tobii eye tracker because it's just easier on my eyes.
Yeah.
So would you say I'm turning sufficiently enough at the moment, or would you say turn a bit more aggressively?
So I mean, that's up to you, but you can turn a little bit more aggressively, in my opinion. It's kind of like, just remember that the trade-off between turning aggressively and pulling hard is bleeding off airspeed, right? So if we're in an environment with a lot of SAM threats or MiGs around, you know, you can turn a little bit more aggressively, but we don't want to turn so aggressively that we bleed off all that airspeed and now we're a sitting duck over the top of the target. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's happened to me a few times, especially when I've had to go from air to ground to air to air really quick.
Yep, exactly. And you want to... The good thing also, you know, in my missions is you're going to have a whole slew of brothers and sisters out here who are, their job is to protect you from MiGs if you're a strike pilot. And so your job is to drop your bombs and get the heck out of there. And, you know, you're going to have other bros that are going to be there for, you know, taking out SAMs and suppressing SAM batteries and things like that. Everybody has a job, and that way you don't have to do all the jobs all at once.
That's like CAS, CAP, SEED.
Exactly.
I don't like to say dead, but
yeah,
it is what it is at the end of the day.
Deed, dead, DAD, CAD, doesn't matter to me. I use all the pronunciations to piss people off.
Why didn't that one launch?
So, did you press and hold the weapon? I wasn't watching that one, sorry.
Yes, I did, yeah. I pressed and held it as it came down. It was inside, the carrot was inside the box.
Master arms on, lasers armed. The only thing I can think of is you started pressing the weapon release button while it was still in DTOS mode, instead of waiting for it to come out of DTOS mode and into a level bombing mode. So,
Okay.
I'll watch this next one.
That's all right.
Yeah, no problem. On this one,
oh,
just
that's why it's too close. I
Yeah.
understand now. That's why I can see it playing.
Yep. So try not to move your targeting pod, because the pod already knows where your target is, so no need to change that.
So, with air-to-air as well, am I correct in thinking you can use the boresight mode of the A9Xs to use your HMCS to basically target things? Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. So we'll play with that in just a second. Gotta get rid of your bombs first.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so when you're ready, go ahead and come back into the target. Wait till you're about maybe 12 miles out. So right now you're about 8.9. Just to give you enough time that makes it easier for you.
Yeah.
Now, another thing to kind of think about, and throw this on top of everything we've already been talking about, is let's say you have to attack a target multiple times to drop multiple bombs on multiple targets in the same target area. Always attack a target and egress from the target at different headings. So that way the gunners down there don't start to anticipate your flight path.
Yeah, because then they can shoot in front of it and strike your
Exactly, they'll be ready for you and be waiting for you.
Yeah. Yeah, so I love dogfighting. Still locked on.
That's odd.
What's that?
Is that V locked onto you?
Yeah, so the RWR just now, it pinged when I said that about the F-16.
Oh.
It looks like you were bugging me, so that's why
weird.
I asked.
Do you have a lock tone in your headset?
Nope. I did when you first locked me, which is what made me ask.
So it's not. So what's happening? It's not a lock. Your RWR will give you a little tone when something new pops up on the scope there, and it'll put a diamond over what it believes is the primary threat, regardless of, because the RWR doesn't know who's a good guy or who's a bad guy. It just knows the type of radar and the strength of the signal of that radar. So because I'm close to you and I'm pointing my nose at you, even though I don't have you locked up, your RWR is like, oh hey, watch out for that guy.
Yeah, cool. Right, so I'm coming up to the drop now.
Perfect. Let's see. Fly right on that line, looking good. Cool, you got that.
I'm just having to trim out a minute.
Yep.
Because the way the other bomb going.
Yep. I'll help you with the timing on when to press the button. So wait, don't press it yet.
Yeah, no, I didn't press it then.
Yep. Wait. And now press it. Yeah, everything's looking good now. Everything's looking good. And weapon release. There you go.
Yeah, I felt it that time.
Yep.
Yeah, go on. Nice.
and then basically just ensure that you do not mask that pod, so that way you can keep lasing, and we'll be good.
On the right hand side, isn't it? Right. Sorry, I like to talk to myself to make sure I'm
It's
I'm
all
doing
good.
what I say I'm doing.
It's all good. I do the same thing.
Cool. Jack.
Nice job, dude. Okay, so you were talking about the AIM-9X, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me remember how to do this, because I'm trying to remember the cage on cage button.
It's the nose wheel steering, isn't it?
That is to change weapon types. Let's see, why am I not remembering? Stand by. I'm just going to check my adjust controls.
In air-to-air mode, it is cage on cage, isn't it?
Yeah, it is cage on cage.
God, that. So I'm just in a pattern in a minute.
Oh, okay. I'm a dummy. So, the way that you would switch the AIM-9X to a high-off bore sight mode is going... So now I actually do have you locked up now. So that's what a locked tone sounds like. So, on the SMS page, when you have the AIM-9X selected, there is a button on the left-hand side labeled Slave, and you want to click that to cycle it over to Bore. And when it's on bore, that's when you can look at the bad guy, and the cage uncage button will lock that seeker head onto the target you're looking at. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So here, if I circle back around at you, so come into a right-hand turn, and I'll fly an intercept vector on you. Don't actually shoot at me though, because I won't be able to dodge it.
Yeah, it would be death at this point, so...
Yep. So if you come hard to the right, turn to a heading of like 150. And then... Cool. And you changed it over to bore sight mode rather than slave mode?
Yeah.
Cool. So if you look at me, you'll hear that beeping sound, that tone. And then if you press the cage uncage button, it'll lock the missile onto me. That make sense?
Yes.
Perfect.
There's a way to change the heads-up display, though, to a circle, isn't there?
Yeah, so that is the dogfight mode of the radar. So,
Okay.
I believe you were using the correct keybind. So go over to dogfight mode in your master modes. Cool. So now if you go TMS forward.
Ah, yes.
So the circle is direct head control of your radar antenna. The little diamond is where the AIM-9 seeker head is looking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's the difference there. How much fuel you got left?
So I'm out on my wings. My internal wing is still good. My reservoir and norm's still good.
What's your totalizer say? I've got 7.5.
I've got 7.1, just under.
Beautiful. Wanna engage a couple MiG-21s together?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so let's try that. Other MiG-21s are activating.
Cool, I'm just going to come back onto you a minute.
All right. Okay, so those MiGs are from you, Bra 105 for 35 nautical miles at 20,000.
Okay.
They are now turning hot on you. So,
are they going to shoot me?
Yeah, so they are live, but I have them
Okay.
locked up as well. So I can shoot at them as well. Okay, so remember, high and fast for the furthest AMRAAM shot. I'm about 25 miles out, so you're probably a little bit closer. You take the right-hand guy, I'll take the left-hand guy. Sound good?
I'm not sure which one I've got locked up at the moment.
Looks like you got the right-hand guy.
Left.
Or sorry, yeah, you got the left guy, I'll take the right guy. Okay,
Cool.
And go ahead and Fox.
Fox 3.
Fox 3. And crank right. One's gimbals, 160. One's pitbull. Alright, so looks like my missile might connect here. Okay. Your guy is down. My guy is still up. He went defensive. Do you have him on radar?
Yes, I do.
Beautiful. Go ahead and lock him up and fire at him again. Keep an eye, though, on your aircraft attitude. You're getting higher and higher and slower and slower.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. Gotta keep that situation awareness up. Okay, he's way down low now. He's basically right underneath you, so roll over and pull your nose down and look for him visually. Go over to dogfight mode in your HUD. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and kill him because I is coming in hot after you. Up your belly. And would be a splash.
Fox 1.
Nice job.
Which one it was?
Nice job.
Did you get him?
Yeah, I think my missile connected first, but I'm glad that you got your nose on him. Uh-oh, don't hit the ground. Don't hit the ground. Oof, that was close. Yep. So, biggest thing is, in a dogfight, don't hit the ground, because if you hit the ground, then the other guy wins, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So be careful of that. And what we'll do is climb back on up, and we'll fly direct to steer point 6. Let's go for 15,000 feet. And scratch that. Let's bypass steer point 6 and we'll fly steer point 7.
Cool. And that's 6,600 fuel.
Beautiful. Plenty of gas to get home.
Yes. No, I just got to switch on.
Go ahead and keep coming on left towards steer point 7. And bring it on up to 15,000 feet. I'll join up on you. And try to fly about 350 knots. And then I'll take the lead again, and you can get some more formation practice in.
Cool.
And check your speed brakes. Looks like your speed brakes are out.
Thank you. I put them out when I was going to recover just now. Didn't want to hit the ground.
Definitely a good idea. Okay. I am saddled up on your right-hand side.
Copy.
And I'm just going to slide out in front of you and retake the lead in formation, give you a little bit more formation practice.
Cool. I am at 356 indicated at the moment.
Beautiful. Okay, so you said you've been having a little bit of difficulty with the landings?
Yeah, so getting myself AOA on and on speed as well.
Okay. So would it be helpful to watch me make a landing first and talk it through it, or kind of talk you through it and then watch me, or how would you like to do it?
I'm not really sure what would be the best way to do it, if I'm honest with you.
Okay.
Because I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Okay.
So if I knew what I was doing wrong, then I'd be able to tell you, you know?
Yeah. So why don't we go ahead and we'll try it where I'll make the landing first, and then you can watch my screen as I'm landing, and hopefully kind of give you a better sight picture of what to follow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if we don't know what we're supposed to be looking for, then that can make it a little bit hard. One thing that's a little bit funky about the F-16 is the trim in the F-16 doesn't command a position of the control surfaces. Oh, you drifted into me just slightly. Watch out.
Sorry.
It's okay. So the trim in the F-16 doesn't command a position on the control surfaces per se. What it does is it commands in the pitch a G loading, and in the roll it commands a roll rate. And that's why trimming in the F-16 can be a little bit funky and weird compared to other airplanes like the F-A-18 or conventionally controlled airplanes like the F-15 or F-14, things like that. So when we're landing in the F-A-18 or the F-14 or the F-15, we would use nose-up pitch trim to trim the aircraft into the E bracket for essentially on-speed AOA.
Okay.
In the F-16, we don't do that. The F-16 will automatically do that when we reach the correct airspeed. So we don't actually need to touch the pitch trim very much in the F-16, if at all.
I've been going wrong then. Because
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of nose-up pitch like you were doing the F-18.
Yeah. And that can definitely throw you off.
So fast.
What's that?
Sorry, I was just putting myself as to why am I going so fast.
Oh, yeah. So the F-16 is kind of a funky jet. And to be honest, the flight controls in the F-16 don't translate all that well to home cockpit, like, flight sim technologies.
No.
And so as a result, we kind of have to fudge it as best we can. And that means not touching the trim. Like on a normal F-16 flight, I won't even touch the pitch trim at all.
Wow. So it's
Now-
only like left and right for like when you drop the bombs and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. Or to kind of make that little correction for the targeting pod being on the right-hand side, things like that.
Yeah.
Another thing that can help you with the formation flying is remember that jet engines, they're not like a piston engine. In your car, when you push down on the accelerator pedal, you basically start speeding up right away. In a jet engine, it takes a while for the fuel introduced into the combustion chamber to start spinning the turbine fast enough to compress more air, to burn more fuel, to make the airplane go faster. So it takes a heartbeat or two for the engine to actually spool up to give you more thrust. So as a result of that, we kind of have to be anticipating our throttle change needs all the time. So that way we don't go past who we're flying in formation with and we don't fall back. And I would recommend, you've been leaning on the speed brakes quite a bit, like right now your speed brakes are still out and you're trying to gain on me. Try to lead with the throttle more and rely on the speed brakes to get less. If you're flying in formation with somebody in the F-16, your throttle should basically be moving all the time. You're never going to find a place to leave the throttle that's going to be perfect.
That's exactly what I'm finding. So I'm glad I'm doing the right thing. You're confirming to me that I'm doing everything right at the moment. So
Yep.
Apart from the speed brakes.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm back. I'm back.
Yep. And one of the reasons also to kind of lay off the speed brakes is, as you start to kind of get into that position where it's like, oh my god, so many things are going on, I can't keep track of it all. You kind of get to a point where you'll forget the speed brakes, right? And now you're like trying to catch up with the flight and you're like, holy shit, why am I out of gas? And it's like, oh, I was in afterburner because my speed brakes were out to try and keep up with everybody.
Yeah.
Things like that. So the less we can have to forget, the better.
So normally above like 15,000 feet, I normally stick my fuel flow at 4,500, and that normally gives me bang on 350 airspeed. And it seems to be working at the moment. I'm hands off, so
yeah. Just keep in mind that that will change based off of air density, altitude, air temperature, as well as loadout configuration, aircraft weight. There's so many variables that will influence that.
Yeah.
But it's a good solid number to start from. Okay. Alright, there's Muwafaq Salty down there at our 1 o'clock, coming to 2 o'clock. Waypoint 7 is going to be a nice runway lineup point for us to get lined up onto the runway. We're going to be landing on runway 31, the same runway we took off on. So what we'll do here is let's throw your autopilot on to altitude hold mode.
Yep.
And then let's have you bank your aircraft into let's go for like a 30-degree bank to the left-hand side, and that will keep you just flying in a nice little circle as you watch me land. Just make sure everything's settled out, make sure you're not getting faster or critically getting slower here. I'm live, so you should be able to see me.
Let me just switch over my... Sorry, go on.
No worries.
Switch tabs. Because I have to pay in full screen mode, unfortunately. Yes, I can see now. Have you?
Alright. Would it be more helpful for you if I did a straight-in landing or an overhead brake to land?
I've not really done any overhead brakes, so probably a straight-in.
Okay. So I'll fly out further towards steer point 7 then. What's maximum gear extension speed in the F-16?
300.
I think it's 250. So just be careful.
I've always done it at 298, and I've only banged one wheel once.
Gotcha.
And that's because it was a hard landing. I cut the power too early, and I had a 100-foot drop straight to the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, in the F-16, we're not really going to be cutting the power until we're like right before touchdown, because the power, having our engine spooled up, is going to allow us to cushion that vertical speed for a nice soft landing. So, I mean, if you end up high, then yeah, you'll have to pull it to idle. But one of the reasons why we put our speed brakes out for landing is so that way we have extra drag on the aircraft. That means that we need to have the engine spooled up further to allow for better throttle response. Because the engine will give you better thrust response at higher RPMs than at lower RPMs. Okay, so we'll come on in here. I'm just going to make a harder turn to bleed off some of the speed. We'll pull our speed brakes out. sure we're lined up for runway 31 here, which, yep, we're going to be good there. Another thing that I like to do is I like to lower my HUD symbology brightness, so that way we can see the runway a little bit easier.
Altitude.
One thing to note here is we have a nice big taxiway that looks like a runway on the right-hand side.
Okay, so it's the right-hand side one that's the taxiway.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just being nice and gentle with it. I'm going to turn my HMD off because I don't need that anymore. And ideally, I want to get the geometry right for that straight in as far out as I possibly can. Which, you know, for flying airliners in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So
Yep.
Get the gear down. Get the speed brakes extended. Okay, so now we're over into the landing mode of the HUD. And as I get slower and slower, I have to pull up on the stick a bit in order to keep the velocity vector on the touchdown zone of our runway there. And I'm not using any pitch trim, but you can see how I'm getting closer to that E bracket as a result.
Is that just through throttle work?
Yep, it's through throttle work and just a little bit of stick work. So right now I'm not adjusting the stick in any... Here, I'll open the controls indicator for you. I'm not adjusting pitch through the stick, I'm adjusting pitch through throttle movements. Yep. So it's called the regional reverse command, where your pitch goes from your stick to your throttle. And now it's just changing my throttle RPM to adjust where my velocity vector is on the runway for my touchdown point. I'm using lateral stick, of course, to adjust for a slight crosswind here. You can see I'm getting blown off to the right-hand side of the runway a little bit. Kind of adjust for that. Now we're going to come back. Still getting pushed. There we go. And in the F-16, we definitely want to do a flare to land. We don't want to just plop it onto the runway like a F-18. So we're coming down, aiming towards the end of the runway here. Still got power up. Still got power on the aircraft to cushion that vertical speed. And start the flare, power to idle. Flaring, flaring, flaring. And nice gentle touchdown. And we're going to keep that nose up for aero braking, using the rudders. And then we're going to run out of energy, so the nose is coming down. Nose wheel steering's coming on. I'm going to keep my stick all the way aft for more aero braking from our stabilators. And I'm going to let the jet just kind of roll out. We got plenty of runway here, so there's no need to jump onto the brakes. So if we jump onto the brakes, we may end up kind of skidding around and flipping the jet over. Once we're under control, we're going to come off to the right-hand side of the runway, so that way in case my wingmen land long behind me and they're going to pass me, they can come off to the left-hand side of the runway. Nice and slow now, so we can start to get on those brakes and get ready for exiting the runway. Does that help at all, kind of seeing it done?
Yes, I understand now that me playing around with the pitch and the trim is what's been messing me up, because the throttle's trying to increase and decrease the pitch at the same time that I'm trying to do that with my joystick.
Yep, just let the throttle do it, don't do it with your joystick.
Yeah, so I'm just fighting with myself, basically.
Exactly, yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. So I'll watch your stream here, and I'll walk you through it.
Cool.
And as you slow down, so try not to descend here quite yet. We're still a little bit far out from the runway for a descent. So try and put that velocity vector right on the runway where you want to touch down. Don't let it drift off the runway.
Okay.
Yep. And just let the airplane slow down. Your throttle's up. Keep on slowing down to about 180 knots. And as the airplane slows down, it's going to automatically trim your nose into the E bracket. So try and trust it. Trust a little bit more. Don't fight it.
I've got a lot of crosswind at the moment.
Yep. It should settle out as you get lower here. And keep slowing on down. Keep slowing. And pull back on the stick a little bit just to bring that nose up towards the runway. And come left a little bit. Try to get a little bit on the low side, so give it some power now. Now that we're in the E bracket, we can give it power to get our nose back up to the runway.
Oh, this crosswind! What the hell?
I think you need to add some like left wing down trim. The crosswind is actually pretty negligible right now.
Crazy.
Yeah. All right.
Can you see this right drift that I'm getting at the moment?
Yeah, I think you probably need to just give it some left wing down trim. All right. Keep coming to the left. Give it some power. Keep that velocity vector right on the runway where you want to touch down. Still getting pushed to the right a bit. Keep on coming back to the left. And now start to walk the power back. And start to flare, pull back on the stick. There you go. And now keep that nose up. Whoop, not so much that we take off again.
Yep.
And now hold that stick all the way back to your lap. Let the jet kind of roll out a bit before you slam on those brakes. Now start to slowly and gently come up on those brakes. Nice and gentle. All right, nice job. Now get that nose wheel steering on. Cool.
Oh, wow, that was so much easier. Thank you so much. That's the first semi-perfect landing that I've had.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really, really happy with that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So let's go ahead. Once you taxi off the runway here, we'll debrief kind of what happened with that landing and how you can make it easier on yourself.
Yeah, sure. Because that's one thing I want to know, because that was hard.
Yeah.
For me, that was very hard.
Yeah.
So I'll just take the taxi line next to you.
Sounds good. Okay. So one thing we want to do is we want to try and have you develop the control of the airplane, so that way you can more easily maintain a roughly 3-degree glide slope coming down. So we got too low, way too far out from the runway, and that's what made it so hard. If we get too low, too far out from the runway, we have to carry a lot more power in, because now we're dragging the airplane across the ground to get all the way to the runway, right?
That's exactly how it felt.
That's because it's exactly what happened, right?
Yeah.
Whereas on my approach, I kept a nice more or less 3-degree glide slope coming on down to the runway and just kind of plopping the airplane nicely on the runway, as opposed to dragging it across the ground. So potentially in the future, for practice, maybe try coming in a bit higher and then bringing it down lower towards a 3-degree glide slope as you feel more comfortable with it, as opposed to maybe we started you a little too low. As for the right wing down tendency that you're feeling, what is the stick that you're using again?
Thrustmaster Warthog.
Okay, and what is it plugged directly into your motherboard, like in the back of your PC case?
So it's plugged directly into my laptop. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's not on a hub or anything.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's perfect. And in your home cockpit kind of where do you have the stick positioned? Is it up on the desk in front of you, or is it down on a mount between your legs? Or
So it's like my keyboard's about 45 centimeters wide, and my throttle's on one side and my joystick's on the other, but it's on like the metal base that the Warthog comes with.
Okay, so it's on top of your desk out in front of you then.
At the moment.
Okay.
Until I get the mounts for it at the end of the month. So
Gotcha. Yeah, so when you get those mounts and you move the stick down, more towards your lap and the throttle, you're going to be feeling it's going to make everything a lot easier for you. It's going to make flying in formation like so much easier overnight with that one small change that you're going to be super happy about it. Because right now what I think is happening is I think like through no fault of your own, your muscles are getting lazy, and so you're leaning on the stick a little bit, and that's why it's coming off to the right-hand side. And I think that that'll be fixed by having the stick on mounts, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think that that's what's happening, and I think that was kind of mirrored by what I was seeing on your controls indicator when you're coming into land there.
Yeah.
And another thing that'll help with that kind of like what you felt like was crosswind was getting lined up on the runway further out. Like you said, landing on a runway with ILS would help as opposed to a visual approach. And holding that runway center line from as far out as possible all the way to touchdown, as opposed to dragging it across the ground and fighting the crosswind at the same time and trying to get on center line. And we're making it hard on ourselves, right?
And.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, do you have any curves on your stick at all for your axis?
So I've got 10 dead zone set to 10 and a 25 degree curve.
Okay. For the F-16, the dead zone is good. But I would try maybe even lessening the curve a little bit. I find that in the F-16 is probably the only jet in DCS where I don't use much of a curve. And that's because the way the stick works in the real jet doesn't translate super awesome to DCS and our home cockpit hardware. So that's something to play with as well. But you're going to find what you like best in that.
Well, I'm going to change the curvature back to 0 again because that's kind of what I've been thinking the past couple of days.
Yeah.
But just having the dead zone there so it didn't move left and right was just so I could get rid of that as a cause for what was going on sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always good to eliminate variables. I really do think that once you get mounts, that's going to really help.
Yeah.
I would say that you're definitely like right on the cusp of being ready to join a mission and have fun in the mission. Because it's all about, you don't want to join the mission and be overwhelmed, right? I think if you figure out the landing a little bit more, it's going to increase your enjoyment in a mission a lot more. Because part of the satisfaction of flying the mission is flying in with your teammates, dropping bombs, and then flying home and all landing together,
Exactly, yeah.
So definitely practice that landing. And like I said, I think those desk mounts are going to make a big difference for you. And then once you got that landing figured out, I think you're pretty much good to go, man.